Tonight, a good conversation, kind of an extension of a previous show, and one I think you'll find a lot of interest in. Welcome to My State of Mind. I am Dan York. We wish you a Merry Christmas. I hope that you had a good one. I'm off for the day and next week, and so this was recorded. I'm punchy, but no, listen, we've got, everyone needs a little time off. I get a couple of viewers who email me. They're all upset that I'm not analyzing the news of the day. Some people need some time off, and some people need to enjoy the idea that we don't get necessarily bogged down in the news of the day, and we can expand, and we can talk, and we can lay out some more in-depth, learning and conversation. And tonight's an opportunity to do that. I had Stephen Alexander on the show back in November, and I understand that he's a controversial figure, but you wouldn't think so when you meet him. And it's all part of how we're doing versus and how he's doing, and it's all that. And so I said, come on back and let's talk some more. Stephen's got a wonderful story. He is he's a coach, an educator, and he used to be a girl. And okay, now you can send your cards and letters to My State of Mind. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Well, you know what? Because that's the way the world works, and we need to understand and kind of get used to it. Here's a great headline, though, and I didn't realize that we had this going on. This is the Sports Illustrated Trailblazer of the Year Award, which that institutional magazine gives out, and guess who's the winner? Our own Stephen Alexander. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
How huge is that?
Oh, it's monumental. I just completely in shock. Probably about a month ago, my friend Ricky and I, we were driving in the car, and I got a text from Sid Ziegler, who did the original Sports Story, and he said, answer your email right away, and it happened to be one of the senior editors-in-chief from Sports Illustrated, and they said, hey, we would love for you to comment on the year in review of sports, particularly with the LGBT aspect, knowing that it's important for humans to be true to themselves. And so we sat down, we worked through, all of the events that were coming into focus. We focused on Michael Sam and Jason Collins primarily, and really how important it is for people to embrace sports, all aspects of a human being. And so many people have been kept in the closet for a while, and I know that there are those folks out there that say, well, why is it important that these people come out? Because it really is an aspect of our essence in being true to ourselves, and to offer that to other people as well.
So Michael Sam and Jason Williams are
Jason Collins.
Jason Collins, I'm sorry, out of the closet, gay. Oh, that camera. Athletes that happen to be gay. Sam is an interesting character because he's been cut, and right now he's on the lam, and he believes he's good enough to play in the National Football League, and so far he hasn't been able to stick. And so the ongoing question, damned if you do, damned if you don't, has been and will continue to be, I would think. Is he not playing because he's gay? Did he get a chance because he was gay? And until he makes a team, it's going to be hard to answer those. I don't know. What do you think about that?
He's a controversial figure one way or the other. What I praise him for is for coming out. He might have a lot of work to do in terms of embracing the different defensive schemes that teams offer in his development. But what's important is that finally we have a figure in America's #1 sport that has come out. So the NFL, I'm sure that there are other gay players there, but they're not willing to take that chance to come out either for their careers or to keep it hush-hush. They're there to do a job, so they don't want that attention on it.
It's a fascinating conversation. So, but yours is too. So the last time you were on the show, and if you missed the show, it's on foxprovidence.com, our first conversation, but why don't I do the Cliff's Notes recap on your whole life in like 3 minutes, okay? Just give me that. No, the truth is, you've gone through a very, very personal and fill-in-the-blank process. Personal and what?
A very trying process to navigate the world, knowing that my essence is male, and I was raised as a girl. So it wasn't an easy thing to do, to navigate the medical systems, to navigate the legal systems, to then now navigate the sporting world. so to speak, and to actually be true to myself and do what I love to do, which is to coach, which is to teach, which is to experience young people and other people having dialogues and learning. And that's one of the reasons why I thank you for having me on the show, because this is the type of dialogue that we need to continue to have, not just to tell people where it's at, but always branch those new avenues.
The unique part of you is that you were a 1,000-point scorer when you played high school basketball. And you were recently inducted into the district's Hall of Fame, which I know was just pivotal for you, right?
Oh, it was a huge honor to go back to my school, to see the coaches that I might have played with in high school. One of the girls, the Pontiac middle school team, Jamie LaRose, we worked together in basketball, but I also played tennis with her in high school. And her mother was my gym coach and my tennis coach way back when. So everything's kind of, gone full circle. And to come back to the community as well. So completely, hugely honored. I have very dear friends. They might not understand everything that goes on internally with what's going on, but they're a huge support.
We're going to pause here. When we come back, there's some questions that dawn on me that I didn't even think would dawn on me, that just dawned on me. Did I say that 3 times? It's a long week, but I'm going to have them dawn on Steve when we come back.
I was devastated. It was such a shock. We thought, nope, you're just gay. You're gay. We didn't really understand. I had never heard of transgenderism before that.
I think we heard of 1 out of every 10 people was gay in high school, and then we heard that people cross-dress. That was all I knew about anything that was different.
It's funny, I've seen those videos before. Stephen Alexander is my guest. He is an educator and a coach in the Pontiac school system. By the way, it's basketball season. Your middle school team is doing well.
We're doing okay. We lost the first 2 games. They are playing really good defense. They're starting to rebound, the guys. We pulled out our first victory the other night, and the ball movement was great. The defense was there. The rebounding was there. Always something to still work on, but
when I look at that video of your sister, I sense a struggle there, and it wasn't the video that I remember that I was going to play that caused me in the last segment to say something just dawned on me. But something just dawned on me. I just met you last month. So I have a much easier time looking you square in the eye and seeing you for who you are, because I just met you.
I appreciate
that.
But
I know I do factor in your story, and I think anybody who doesn't say they're not challenged by it, challenged to think, understand how we feel about it, is full of it. So I'm a little challenged by it, but I'm not unable to look you square in the eye and say, yeah, it's my friend Stephen. I got no problem here. But it's got to be very hard. You were mentioning when you mentioned the girl that you played with, tennis, her mom, those everyday people in your life as a kid all the way up through your adolescence. They must look at you square in the eye from 2 feet away and go, "What the hell happened here?" Right?
I think sometimes people for the most part are respectable, and you really get the sense of when they're being kind and considerate and trying to understand, what's going on. There'll be other people in life who understand who I am, and they might, freak out or be a little bit hesitant. That's just comes with the territory of being transgender. So many people in the transgender community get that on a daily basis if they don't look the part, if they're not behaving a certain way. So we really, as Americans, need to start thinking outside the box. It's not just female, it's not just male. There are transgender people, gender nonconforming, LGBT people. We need to do a better job of, thinking outside the box.
Yeah, but also, here's the thing that I think is dangerous about this. And I've had these very deep conversations with the LGBT community back in the old days when there was only the gay community,
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that I think is interesting about these heavy, heavy loads that you bear when you are either coming out or, in your particular case, transgendering. It's got to be a very self-involving process. And I think you got to make sure that you walk in the shoes of the people who have seen your process, because they probably liked and loved you then and like and love you now, but they're also trying to figure out what in heaven's name just happened before my very eyes and my life experience with this one human being. It's not easy. So,
It takes
right?
it takes
you got to
a while.
work a little bit of going, you know what, rather than just classifying everybody in a situation where you got to learn that there's a whole bunch of us that you got to understand. You got to understand that it's hard to understand.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that that's one of those things. It's unfortunate that there are not a lot of roadmaps out there. So
Right.
that's why these discussions, are taking place. And that's where, I'm fortunate to have met you and to discuss these things. Yeah, it's when you're trans, you do go through a very selfish process, or at least in my experience. I can't speak for the entire transgender community. I'm part of the transgender community, but I can't speak entirely for them. This is my experience. I know that I had to do a lot of deep thinking. When I was in college, I studied religion. When, I also studied psychology. I also loved sports. So there was really deep moments of thinking, and then there's that unfolding of what are the next steps when you come out, or how do you share that with your family? Are you respectable enough? And I'm going to say that my family dynamic, it hasn't been perfect. I think it's just a struggle. And it was very difficult for my parents to hear that news. And it was one of those things where I said to myself, either I'm going to take my life and not have them go through that, or I'm going to do something about it. So I went to a very dark
Take
place.
my life suicidal?
Yes, I mean, because I didn't want to put them through that kind of pain that I knew I would be shifting their viewpoint on how the world operates.
Well, that's pretty selfless, dangerously selfless,
I guess so.
right? No, seriously, you love your parents so much, you didn't want to put them through that which they'd have to deal with as you're making your transition. So you actually had some time where you thought, well, let's just not. Why don't we just not go through this?
Yeah, it was one of those things
that's
to
incredible.
protect them.
Well, but see, that shows me that you do have more than an empathy for those around you who are following the lifetime bouncing ball that you have been through. So I don't want to overemphasize that. I just think it's an interesting thing. And now I see the evidence that you clearly understand that it's hard for people. But your story, I think, is more compelling than how hard it is for everyone else, because they go ahead and they live their lives. You're the one that's still in transition still, correct?
I think, you just make an interesting point that the transgender community, we are all connected to each other in some way, shape, or form. And it's, how we use that information and how we're sympathetic and empathetic to friends and family. It's just it's a difficult road to walk, that fine line. So.
I asked you a question last time. I'm not going to get stuck in the same trap, but I'm going to do it again. When did you know? Or when did you do it? And last time you said, well, it's been a long thing. But most people want to know, when did you move from Jen to Stephen? And
it's a very difficult question to kind of answer, because for me, in my experience, I've always known I was a boy. I just loved more of the masculine things. They were just interesting, from the Transformers to the GoBots. But then there's that psychological process of coming out to yourself after you've reflected on how people are raising you as girls. They want to give you, my parents for Christmas, they'd buy me Cabbage Patch dolls, and, I hated that. But it was trying to appease them in some ways, to say, oh, that's great, but not really taking a liking to it. And then there's the point where you have to know, you have to do something. You can't innately stay there and stay stagnant and continue to operate the way you have been. And that's where, being open and honest and sharing the truth of my experience and what I was going through, and then having them somewhat process it or believe what I'm saying is true, because I didn't get that initially. It was more of, okay, continue to go to therapy and keep working on things, not really realizing that, in fact, what I was speaking was the truth. And the more I went to therapy, the more it got pulled out of me that this was, in fact, something I needed to do in order to not only survive in life, but to thrive in life. And
that's why I brought Stephen back, because we could do 12 of these shows, by the way. Is there a short answer to the question? Was it easy to do medically?
No.
It's not a short answer, and it wasn't easy to do?
It was not easy to do. I mean, transgender people, when we go through the process of deciding whether or not surgery is something for us, it's jumping through hoops. You need letters from therapists. You need to make sure that the surgeon is on board. You might work with insurance companies to see if something can be done back when.
Were you covered?
I was covered. I found a way in which to cover it, but now it was almost impossible back then to do. But there's support groups. There are people out there that can help if we're struggling through the same issues. Now what's great is that there are a lot of Fortune 500 companies that are realizing that it's not a cosmetic surgery, but it really is in fact something to benefit somebody who needs it medically. It is a serious medical concern, an issue that needs to continue to be talked about, and some companies are coming on board with it, which is great for the health and the happiness and the well-being of the person that's working for them.
More when we come back. Stay with us. Yeah, the wind up and the pitch. Well, that's not very impressive. Let me tell you, I was a softball umpire for a long time. So
oh, yeah?
You throw a good arc, or it's the fast pitch that's real softball,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
I don't know what you're thinking.
I agree. It's all good.
Stephen Alexander, educator and a coach in Punagansett. He's got a story. You're on because you're transgendered.
I would hope it wouldn't just be for that.
I
But,
know.
but that is
like,
a major
listen,
piece. I do
I've hung
understand.
out with you for almost 2 shows. Now I'm sick of saying it. No, I am. I'm just like sick of saying it.
All right, you can say Trailblazer of the Year now.
Sports
and
Illustrated Trailblazer of the Year. You are going to embark on a 2015 outreach program, speaking program, telling your story, drawing common ground with people who have the same kinds of stories, educating the world on what you're doing, which I think is amazing.
Thank you.
At what point do you think you'll be able to just be you who you decided to trans to without having to tell the whole story of how you did it and what you're dealing with and what people ought to know, or will that ever happen, do you think?
You know, I'm not sure. I think that's a good question to ask, and I can't really answer that. I know some people want to hear my story, and then there's a bigger message out there saying that there are so many youth and kids and people that, you know, deserve the opportunity to play in sports. And sometimes what we get are experiences, you know, they might not be as good at sports, and then something turns them off. And for the rest of their lives, they're saying, sports, ooh, what's that? I'm kind of about everybody can play at all different levels, all different experiences, if we embrace, you know, the honesty and the truth about all of us, and how having diverse perspectives contribute to being a better team and being real and raw and honest with people.
Well, listen, you clearly, in your coaching efforts, have mastered empathy. So right, and I think that's probably one of the missing elements in a lot of coaches out there who are, you know, driving you to a goal without trying to understand where you are. But you know, there's a lot of little league coaches and everything else that are just volunteering. They have a short amount of time and they're trying to get something out of their kids. Do you feel like you coach competitively as well? Because you used to compete, but you've competed with yourself.
No,
you mean you're a tough SOB to do what you did, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
So does that translate into your coaching?
It certainly does. I love competing, and I think that's, you know, first and foremost what drives. But I need to take into consideration the elements of the person, and then how, or the student athlete, we should say, and how that student athlete will then fit in with other student athletes' personalities. So it's really maximizing the kids' potentials, their learning potentials, being competitive. Most of the kids that I coach are already, they've got that inner drive. It's just really kind of, you know, helping them along.
Since you've been more and more out, and obviously the district loves you. They put you in the Hall of Fame and the like, but do you have the funny looks from parents? Is there a thing there?
I think there was concern when the issue first broke. Like, people knew, they talked, you know, just the gossip per se, and then when the story broke, they would have a little bit more of those real, open, and honest chats as parents together to say, how does this fit into
about you?
About me.
With you?
No, not. It was kind of more behind the scenes. I had a very grateful parent whom I've had the privilege and honor of coaching both her sons, and when other parents had concerns, you know, they approached her because she knew me well.
Liaison.
A liaison, so to speak, and they get that, and they're super nice people, the Perillos, and
Does it rise to the level where you think you ought to have a coffee with everyone, invite everyone over, seasonally, and say, hey, you got questions, issues? I mean, you are now you're grooving. I mean, just the last month or so since you first did the show, and you're in a much better place right now. I just want at the same time though, you don't want it to bog down the daily. It's
funny that you
tough,
said
right?
it is funny, and you actually just brought an idea into my head, doing like a little coffee talk,
Yeah,
sit
bring
and
it, say,
chat,
listen,
and
let's break the ice. I know you got questions. You wonder if it's affecting little Johnny or Billy or whatever, or whoever I'm coaching. Talk to me.
I
right?
think it's always about my new approach is really open, honest, raw, and real. Call it like it is. What are your concerns? What are your fears? Because there's a lot of fear towards transgender people because people don't understand it. And if there's a better understanding, I look at us as, with the experience, we're mirrors. If we hold up the mirror and then it reflects on other human beings, it gives them thought to ponder, to say, hey, my experience is not the only experience in the world, or how I've once viewed things now is a little shattered, but I can pick those pieces up and to have that dialogue.
And you want people to talk to you. Jess, you have contact info or something that Stephen? You want people to talk to you. So,
These are the Twitter pages. You can follow me at Evolving Stephen, and then my business partner and dear friend and dear teammate Ricky Bonilla. You can find him at JD Truth for you.
Right. Well, this will not be the last time you're here. Congratulations on the Sports Illustrated.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
There
it.
you go, man. All right, your state of mind next. This is how you get in touch with the program. I'm sure Stephen will cause you to say some things. 228-1886. Email me, tweet, Facebook post. We always like to hear what you have to think. We'll continue with some special programming over the course of this holiday season. We have some activists talking about Ferguson and beyond coming up Monday, so I hope you'll be here for that. Thanks for watching. Merry Christmas.